Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, has unveiled plans for a fast-track asylum system, a bold attempt to clear the UK's mountainous asylum backlog, currently exceeding 79,000 cases, plus nearly 51,000 outstanding appeals. The new scheme, scheduled to be introduced through legislation this autumn, aims to deliver initial decisions and appeal outcomes within weeks, and at its heart is the ambition to restore order and control, not only to border security but to the Labour Party's narrative on immigration itself, to turn the clock back to the days before Theresa May's stupidity, and, of course, blankets. Let's be clear, this is a high-stakes political and administrative gamble. For years, the Home Office, under successive Conservative administrations, failed to process asylum claims with anything resembling efficiency. Applicants from safe countries often lingered in legal limbo, while others waited months, sometimes years, in taxpayer-funded hotel accommodation. Labour, now in government, faces the very real challenge of demonstrating not simply that it's different, but that it is effective. And Cooper's approach involves four major strands: fast-tracking safe country applications to ensure claimants from countries considered broadly safe, such as Albania, India or Brazil, do not clog up the system unnecessarily. Such cases would be diverted into a secondary, accelerated system with decisions and appeals resolved swiftly. Overhauling the appeals process, which Cooper described as in desperate need of reform and long overdue. That is the second strand to her plan. And currently the average appeal takes over a year to be heard. The aim is to compress that into 2 weeks, into weeks rather than years, and potentially through the appointment of more judges, increased court time, and a decision that would require significant investments from the Ministry of Justice. Thirdly, tightening the legal thresholds, including a narrowing of the interpretation of exceptional circumstances and potential constraints on the use of Article 8 of the European Convention on Human Rights, which protects family life and private life, to delay removals. The fourth and final point is to criminalise online people smuggling promotions. This will include adverts for illegal channel crossings and black market jobs. A new offence will carry a prison term of up to 5 years, as Cooper declares that selling the false promise of a safe journey to the UK is nothing short of immoral. Now, there are two immediate questions. Will it work, and is it just? The first depends on capacity. The old Labour government attempted a similar fast-track system, which collapsed after courts ruled it structurally unfair. Almost 99% of claims in that system were rejected, often without adequate legal representation. If Cooper repeats that error, the courts will again intervene, and rightly so. Efficiency must not be bought at the cost of due process. Second, one must ask whether the framing of this policy genuinely serves the interests of justice. Is it fair to detain and deport individuals within days when some have complex but legitimate claims, including LGBTQ+ asylum seekers from states officially considered safe? Thirdly, the proposed crackdown on online smuggling propaganda is in principle sound. Nearly 80% of small boats migrants used social media to try to locate traffickers, but enforcement will be difficult unless the government cooperates deeply with tech platforms and cross-border agents. Legislation alone is not enough. The fast-track plan is also politically symbolic, as any anti-immigration protests intensify, including this weekend's far-right demonstrations outside asylum hotels in London and Newcastle. Cooper's announcement serves a dual purpose: to protect order, to project order to voters, and to outflank Conservative rhetoric on immigration. Simultaneously, Chancellor Rachel Reeves has pledged to end hotel accommodation for asylum seekers by the end of this Parliament, suggesting a coordinated strategy to deliver both fiscal and symbolic discipline. So Cooper's fast-track asylum plan is risky but potentially transformative, and it marks a decisive attempt to restore trust in the state's ability to manage borders and uphold fairness. However, the government must learn from the failures of the past, and without enough Home Office agents to process the initial claims, this is not going to even get off the ground. There need to be more people in the Home Office to do this job. If speed comes at the expense of justice, the courts and history will not be forgiving. the priority must be not just to clear the backlog, but to do so in a manner worthy of a democratic rule of law based state. That means initially processing people quickly, and it means having the justice system to hear any appeals or any concerns. Now, in order to do this, I think we need to increase the number of agents in the Home Office and to change the Home Office methodology from lethargy to action. But secondly, I think we need to consider whether or not there's a way of giving people temporary residence while the details of their application are fully considered. And that would give them an opportunity to work, to pay tax, to demonstrate their commitment to our way of life and our country. And that is the process in most European countries. For some reason it isn't the process here. We need to change that. And that can be done in the House of Commons.